All right, everybody. So let's get into it. What is estate planning? That is what we are here to talk about today. And we're going to take our first steps in getting you set up towards protecting that future and securing that legacy. So today we're going to talk about what estate planning is, cover some of the basic aspects of it, and go from there. So first and foremost, what is estate planning? So what is the process of estate planning? It's managing your assets and affairs for incapacity or death. So this is you detailing what you want to happen in either the event of your incapacitation, right? So you are not able to make decisions or your death. So what do you want to happen in either of those scenarios? That is basically what estate planning is. What is the purpose of it? It ensures your wishes are honored and that your loved ones are cared for, right? What do you want to happen? The only way that the ones you love and that are going to be taking care of this will know for sure is if you tell them. Most people don't like to have conversations about this, so putting it into something like a will, a trust, which we'll cover here in a second, that is the way to go about it. And putting a note there that this is not just for people who are later in their life and or people with a lot of money. There are a lot of aspects of estate planning which pretty much make it pertinent for just about everyone over the age of, let's say, like 21, right? So if you're over the age of 21, you probably want to start considering at least some estate planning, at least have it in your head. So let's kind of cover what some aspects of it are, starting with a will. So a will is one of the kind of first stops of estate planning when you talk about starting to take care of some things. So a will essentially is your final instructions. Now, a will is not bulletproof, and we'll kind of walk through some other parts of the estate planning process that really are some things you're going to want to consider if you want to be bulletproof. But a will is absolutely the first stop, which is detailing what you want to happen with your assets, how you want your property to pass to your heirs. If I want this little knickknack to go to this specific person, if I want my dogs to be watched by this person, all that can be detailed at least how I would want it in an ideal world into something like a will. It also gives me the ability to name guardians. So if you have children, you absolutely want to have a will so that you can detail what will happen with your children should anything happen to you and or another parent, right? Just saying, hey, friend down the street or sister or brother, you would be our person in a random conversation one time, that's not enough, right? We want to detail what's going to happen to our children. We don't want to leave our family guessing what we would think is the right thing to do. We want to tell them. So naming guardians is a big, big part of it. And what would happen if I didn't have a will? Well, that leaves it for the state to decide what happens with my possessions and or my family, right? So it may not match what I want to happen. Having a will, super important, definitely a first place to start. Moving right along, designating beneficiaries. Now, this is another one that if you have accounts that you can do this on, it's pretty easy to get off and rolling with it. So this is essentially naming somebody formally using their social security number. Probably in most circumstances you want to try to do that to be sure, but some sort of identifying information to give your account beneficiaries that will receive your assets should something happen to you. That will avoid the probate process. It will make everything a whole lot easier. It makes the transition of those assets just super, super simple if they are named as beneficiaries on your account. More bulletproof than a will without a doubt, right? And we'll kind of touch on that as we go. So you're going to want to do this on things like your retirement accounts, really any investment accounts you have, even just joint brokerage accounts or individual brokerage accounts, even bank accounts. Most cases you can name TOD, transfer on death, beneficiaries on those types of accounts, and you absolutely want to do that if you can. Another place that beneficiaries are going to be relevant is in life insurance. So you want to make sure, obviously, that you name your beneficiaries properly, the way that you want it to be done. And then finally, you want to be checking those beneficiaries because, again, Like I mentioned, this is a bulletproof method. If things change in your life and you no longer want who was your beneficiary to be that beneficiary, you would like it to be somebody else, you have to make sure you are addressing that, because if someone's named as your beneficiary, when something happens to you, that's who they're going to call, that's who they're going to open an account for, and that's where they're going to move the money. It avoids the probate process. It is a bulletproof way to get the money where you want it to go, but you want to make sure you're updating that for sure. Let's keep rolling. Another aspect of estate planning is setting up a trust. So this is a more complex one. This one might not necessarily be for everybody, especially depending on what stage you are at in your life. But let's talk about a trust for just a second here. What is the purpose of a trust? The purpose of a trust is basically asset protection. Not everything can have a beneficiary named on it. So most accounts, bank accounts, brokerage accounts, those types of things can. You can name a person, attach their social security number, they're on there, you're good to go. Something like a house or physical possessions, things like that, you can't exactly name a beneficiary on something like that so easily. So something like that is where a trust would come in. You absolutely want to create something like that to make sure, just like we mentioned with the accounts, avoiding that probate process, which we'll kind of touch on here in a second. This is how you do that with something like a property. You protect your assets and make sure they go where you want them to go. If something happens to me, I actually can even name somebody to basically manage that trust and kind of make those decisions in accordance with what I would want, and everything can flow the way that I want it to. And you're essentially, with a trust, creating a separate entity that you're using to protect your assets. It provides several financial benefits, some of which I've already named, so I won't really touch on that any further. And finally, some special situations. It can manage assets for minors, kind of like I just mentioned, special needs, or controlled distribution. So like I said, if anything happens to me, I can kind of even detail in the trust what it's supposed to do, and it will operate kind of like it's a totally separate person, right? Like it is like an entity that I can tell it what to do, and it will operate in the way I told it to do with the guidance of a trustee. Likewise, even while I'm living, I can set up certain assets to be given to a child who needs special assistance, etc., and have that trust distribute and send money out in the way that I am telling it to, operating in that way. So as you can see, it's kind of a complicated vessel. A trust is not necessarily for everyone. Probably over-talked that one just a little bit, but essentially a trust is an entity that you create to protect assets that can't be protected by beneficiary or something like that, and for some special circumstances when you want money to be operating in a certain way. Now, those are things that you name and kind of ways that you dictate what will happen with your assets. They're more direction, right? The things we've talked about so far. A will, a trust, beneficiaries, those are directions about what we want to happen. Power of attorney is another angle of estate planning, where now we are stepping into the appointing somebody as my representative if something should happen to me. So prior to what we were talking about now, we were talking about processes, right? Instructions, things I'm telling you I want to happen. Now I am going through the process of naming somebody to carry out those things, right? So this is somebody I'm naming to act in my stead should I become unable. I'm still alive, but for whatever reason, I cannot make these decisions on my own. I am now appointing somebody to do that. Now, if I've done the things I just named before, right, the person I'm naming in these documents here, they're going to be doing what I'm hopefully have set up and told them to do. But let's talk about these couple processes of estate planning where I'm appointing an actual party to do something for me. First up, with the power of attorney. So this is the financial and legal authority for when I can't act. So durable power of attorney lets someone manage finances during incapacity. So this is specifically talking about my business financial affairs. I am naming somebody to If I have bills that need to be paid, make sure they get paid. If I have things that need to happen, that those things happen, right? I'm naming a person to make sure that all that happens in the case that I'm incapacitated. It allows me to choose a trusted agent who understands my financial wishes. So again, hopefully I've named all this stuff out in some estate planning documents, but if I haven't, hopefully when I set up something like a POA, power of attorney, I'm naming somebody who is at least familiar with what I would want. This power ends at death. So this is a power, like I said, should I become incapacitated, someone can step in and continue to manage my affairs without skipping a beat. When I pass away, that power ends, and now all the stuff I've set up previously will go into effect. And I would transition the power from what's a power of attorney to something like an executor, which would be named in my actual will. So we didn't really mention that in the will, but when you're setting that up and creating the will, usually you'll put someone in there which is called an executor who will execute that will the way that you want it. So once you pass away, before you pass away, I should say, power of attorney is the one who steps in and makes sure your affairs are going the way you want. Once you pass away, we're looking at an executor. So one more thing I want to touch on in terms of appointing parties through estate planning is healthcare directives and living wills. Now, what we just talked about with power of attorney, that is for your business affairs, your financial affairs. The other side of that coin is my healthcare decisions. If I need a medical procedure, if I need medication, if I need something physically health-wise and I can't make that decision, that is not the durable power of attorney for financial affairs we just mentioned. That is a healthcare directive and living will. These are documents that speak when you cannot speak, provides a healthcare agent, appoints someone to make medical decisions if you can't, and it also allows you to detail treatment preferences. So it states my wishes in a life-sustaining care. So if I want to be intubated, if I want to receive life support, any of these types of scenarios can detail exactly what I want so that my healthcare surrogate has some sort of directive to follow here. And in these circumstances, having things set up like this, like a healthcare surrogate, like a power of attorney, like all your estate planning documents up above, that can provide extreme amounts of family relief. There is nothing more stressful than making big time real life decisions in an extremely stressful environment. And having these things set in place will allow our family to focus on just grieving and supporting us and all the emotions that come along with that, and not having to make financial decisions and furthermore figure out what they think we would have wanted in either our financial or our health circumstances. Having these things in place, setting these things up, naming the right people can provide a ton of relief to the family on the back end. So what is the whole goal here? Is we are trying to avoid that probate process, right? We are trying to minimize costs and delays in the process of getting our assets from us to whoever they will be going to pass once we pass. The probate process, what happens if it goes to probate? Well, the court will validate all of the information in the will. They'll dig through all the stuff that is available to them. And that process, depending on how much is available or not available, can be very lengthy. You could have lots of people, whether they have claim or not, coming and trying to say that they do. And the court is left to decide how this all shakes out. And that can just take a long time. And with the attorneys that would need to probably get involved, could be very pricey. So avoidance strategies is the name of the game. Trusts, beneficiaries, wills are helpful. Gifting, right, to reduce taxes. If we gift it while we're alive, we don't even have to worry about it when we pass away. We already got it out of there, right? All these are ways to bypass probate and speed that process up, making it easier for our family just to take care of this and focus on family. Finally, it helps us preserve the wealth, right? Proper planning will preserve more money for our beneficiaries and for the people that we're looking to leave money to without having to pay all those lawyers and all that stuff. So why does everybody need an estate plan? Because 100% protection only comes with the things that we've described here. It safeguards your family and your assets regardless of your wealth or age. If you have children, you're not just thinking about you, you're thinking about a unit that you need to protect and take care of. And doing these types of things is going to give you that 24/7 peace of mind. If something happens to me, I can tell you exactly how it's going to go, exactly what's going to happen, and I know that it will. Rather than uncertainty, let's go for that 24/7 peace of mind. And no legal battles, no confusion, no unnecessary expenses, no families fighting. Get these things taken care of, make that process as quick and easy as we can. You can take action today by starting to inventory your assets and debts. Reach out to an estate planner, just have a conversation, let them know your situation and kind of see what they recommend for you, kind of get the process started. Review and update stuff regularly as life changes because, again, we do this once. That's great. We want to make sure we are checking it regularly. Finally, make sure we are securing that legacy from protecting those that we love. If you like this type of content, please smash the subscribe button, smash that like button, tell your friends. We will be back with more videos. But until next time, you all, this is an intro to estate planning, and that is Finance AF.